So we've been talking a little bit about the difficulty of hiring really good media buyers. And at the level that you operate, you can't just hire anybody that's managed like a $10,000 a month budget. Like you need some serious brands that really understand, or some serious media buyers that really understand the brand. I know it's been tough. It's a pain point for you. How are you doing this?
Yeah, I've tried recruiters, I've tried, searching for media buyers myself, both, US based, international. And I think with you know, any vertical of expertise, it's hard to find somebody that's ever going to do something as good as you think you're going to do it. So there's a lot of like personal bias that you have to overcome when really trying to assess a candidate because like media buying is, as we know, is like, or every account is different, right? So different things are always going to work on different accounts. And one thing that a lot of, I guess, agency owners and people that are working on multiple accounts have to push back against is this templatized mindset of like, oh, it worked on this account, I'm going to apply it to this account, or oh, this is just how we do things. We set up our campaigns. I know one, very well known agency, like that's they have a certain standard when they come into a brand and set up an ad account. I had a friend that actually opened or started working with them. My best friend, I lost his business to this agency just because they have a pretty well reputable name. And so, of course, I still have access to the ad account, and it's just one format. And, it's very low impact on the management side. It's all, cost cap. It's all like just this very standardized, templatized account structure, which, maybe works to an extent. And maybe they work for, three out of the five brands they work for. But I don't know. It's just very interesting to see that approach, right? And it's very systematized in the way that manager looks at the account. It's not really creative, like looking for the tactics or analyzing the audience and trying to really find opportunities of growth through the lens of creative media buying. It's more just through like, okay, we're just going to structure it and let Meta decide, which that can work. It really can. But I think accounts require a level of intention, a level of nuance. So when you're trying to hire a media buyer, it's really hard because you're trying to find somebody that one could work within a process that you set as a senior lead, but also have that kind of creative curiosity to turn over the stones and ask the questions that maybe no one's asking. So I find that good media buyers, they have a healthy balance between right brain and left brain, and they're really able to operate on both sides of the coin because personally that's what makes it fun. It's the more controls Meta takes away from us, the less fun it becomes because it's just like, oh, you're just a monkey doing a certain repetitive task, building ads and launching it, and there's no real creative insight to that. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying it's very hard, but there's some specific things we'll do to like try to find those candidates that have that right brain, left brain sort of balance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And Meta's giving some of those controls back, which is nice. But I find sometimes you'll come across really scaled out agencies with like hundreds of people, and you got to wonder what system or how far down the line is it going to eventually arrive at a junior media buyer managing a really big account. It's sometimes pretty suboptimal if you're, like you said, if you're just following the process and you're not really feeling the direction that the account is going in. Because after you've done it so many times on so many accounts, you just get an inclination of where things are headed. I think anybody that manages a big Shopify store knows this. In the first couple hours of waking up, you look at your phone and you see the revenue, you know where the day's going to land. You just have a feeling because you see it every single day. It's the same thing inside
Mhm.
of Meta Ads Manager,
Yeah.
or right? You just get a feeling for where it's going to land. And if you're always following the same system, you're going to miss out on these opportunities.
Yeah, that's the thing. Eh, in a lot of like, analytical people, they don't like the word feeling. I used to sit in meetings with the team, and the creative teams would be like, "Oh, I feel like we should do this. I think we should. I feel like we should." And it was always I feel, and then maybe different teams or accounting teams or finance or people working on a different side of the business operations. You can tell in their language. They're like, "Oh, I think," they say, "We think we could do this. We're thinking about this." And it's like that think first feel kind of like mentality, which is really interesting because it's like yeah, a lot of times, going back to what makes a good media buyer, it's just really good decision making. So, okay, what creates really good decision making? Well, it's both. It's like you have to have good instincts. You really have to have the ability to feel and make the right decision, trust your gut, but then also balancing that with like troves of data that you have either, reviewed, experienced, seen, like, and balancing those two kind of paradigms. They don't always line up.
That's why
But
it's
then
so
also you have
hard.
to
Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say then you have to also challenge your bias, and look for the areas where you are being biased and it's like, yeah, are you a sample size of one in that moment?
And that's
And
why, if you go back to our other calls, we looked at all these custom metrics in Ads Manager to help you figure out where that bias lands.
yeah, exactly. It's like figure out where the smoke is in the data or where the fire is or where that signal is that makes you question, makes you ask like why is it this way?
Yeah, we used to have an exercise at Digital, which is look at the account and look at the decisions that you would make if you're only looking at the numbers. You're just looking at a spreadsheet. And then go to the ad side and look objectively at how you would react to the ad. And we would go as
Mm,
far as sharing the preview to your phone and pulling it up. So it's not on your computer screen because you actually perceive it differently, I've noticed, when it's on your
well,
phone versus if I'm just like staring at the computer screen looking at it. But we would have this exercise and we would figure out, okay, if you were only making decisions on your instinct and just how you feel about a creative versus the data, how would that
yeah,
decision making change? And you almost need to align that path. And then we also looked at metrics like your engagement metrics. So the number of likes, comments, shares that you're getting on a creative. Or if you're using UGC, what's the share stats on a creative when it's posted organically? And then how will that affect your decision making when it comes into the ad account?
that's really good. I think that is probably the missing gap for most brands is we oftentimes I hear it every single time we audit account is the brand owner or the team lead is like, yeah, we're just not getting the right feedback from our media buying team for our creative team to be able to make the decisions that they need. And it's like this reality of at the end of the day, an ad is an ad. It doesn't matter what tactics you're applying to, what audience you're targeting, where, how much budget it has. It's like, is the ad good? And I love that because it's like it forces the folks that are, highly skewed towards just following the data, which is a good thing, but it forces them to utilize those other muscles and get to the other side of the brain and really ask the questions based on how that ad looks.
Totally.
Which I think today is more relevant than ever. It's especially going back to like the sticky factor of ads and performance created and what it's doing to the algorithm and then what it's doing to the consumer base and yeah, the need to really step back and just look at it as a potential customer and as a user and
Yeah,
always
that's the thing.
reevaluate that.
You got to step
Yeah.
back and just look at it from a third person's perspective. And another cool thing is, I think a lot of people have a small circle of friends or their partner that they're sharing content with on Instagram. So you see something, you're
Hmm.
like, for me, I'm like, oh, Kathy would like this, or Sean would like this.
Hmm.
Like the couple people that I send it to, you can almost go through that mental exercise, look at the ad on your phone and think, would I send this to my buddy? Would I send this to my partner? And if it's not interesting enough for you to share, it might not be as effective as an ad. And we'll do the same thing sometimes. You can send the creative back to the brand owner and just say, do you objectively like this? Do you think that this is interesting? Would you stop and look at it? So,
For
yeah,
for
you
sure.
need to
That's
have
for
the metrics.
It's really interesting because that even the founder, the CEO of Instagram came out, was it like a year ago or 6 months ago, in one of his interviews, and he said that like basically he said one, hashtags are basically dead, and he said the key metric that they're optimizing for is that share button. Like, is this content going to be something that you share to your friend? Like that's the metric that matters.
Mhm.
So we tell that to folks all the time of like, our clients, like, are you gonna like, are they gonna be inspired to share this ad with somebody? And it's really hard to make an ad like that. It's not like something you can just do, with a video editor and looking at data from previous clips and put something together. It takes a lot of thought. But it's interesting. I'm laughing because I just perfect example of this was this morning. I wake up, starting to scroll Instagram with my coffee, and like there's a new Bud Light ad out with Shane Gillis, who's, he's like kind of front and center in a lot of areas right now of comedy, but it's so funny. And I watched the entire ad, and I'm here I am talking about it, thinking about it, because I'm like, oh yeah, like actually Bud Light did a really great job of, well, they were accomplishing a number of things in that ad, for all the way from audience demo, persona, to like engaging the audience, making people laugh, and connecting with a certain cohort that is their biggest customer cohort. Like, anyways, like at the end of the day, though, it was basically a comedy skit with Bud Light in the center of it, and it was funny, and it was almost like, you may have seen it. It was the ad. They're treating like tailgaters, NFL tailgaters, as if like they were like safari animals, and they're in a they're in this like safari vehicle, and like it's almost like they're in the wild, in the jungle in the Serengeti, like you know looking at safari animals, just feeding them.
That's
Like,
funny.
maybe
I
not
haven't seen it, but I'm
maybe not
visualizing it
PC,
now.
but like, yeah, it's like I just thought that Bud Light did a really good job of like reframing, because we all know where Bud Light was last year, and
Yeah.
like I just thought, that was a great activation on Bud Light's part. No,
I haven't seen it, but look, we're talking about it now, and now I'm gonna go look at it.
exactly. Like, make ads like that. It doesn't matter what the cohort of the demo is. It's like, make ads that are going to be memorable and get people talking. I mean, we talk about Sydney Sweeney almost every episode, and what brands are doing to like, you know, draft off of that. But I think the funniest thing about that, all of these ads that we're talking about right now, they weren't discovered on traditional media. They were just discovered on social. Like,
Yep.
they were discovered, in the digital format, which that's, I think, the shift. And when we talk about headwinds that a lot of like D2C performance marketers are facing, the headwinds aren't necessarily like lack of targeting. The headwinds in many ways are, you're a small mom and pop D2C brand. You're now competing against these, internationally run, you know, traditional media, like
Yeah, it's like these giant
conglomerates that are
billion-dollar
just
brands that have really great ad ideas and unlimited budget to be able to do it.
exactly,
But this is
exactly.
I talk about this. I used to talk about this a lot. The importance of just getting out of the office and doing something fun or doing something creative, because
Yeah,
you're not thinking of great ad ideas when you're behind the computer screen asking ChatGPT for ad ideas. It doesn't work like that. Like, you need to be out in the real world, out with friends, doing something engaging, doing something to get the creative juices flowing, because I think that's where the really good ad ideas come from. And we're going to talk about Sydney
100%.
Sweeney again. Didn't you? I think you mentioned that you sat down with the creative team for dinner,
Yeah,
and they talked about how they had this idea for using her bathwater, which was not in a moment of sitting in the desk. This is a moment of
yeah.
out for drinks
It
and having this funny idea.
Exactly, and it was during the shoot, actually. There was never supposed to be a product that was connected to that campaign, but it
Right.
was during the shoot, somebody had the idea of like, "Oh, let's make a product out of the bathwater," and it's like, you know, it's funny, I think, yes, just like you said, it's, you gotta be out living it and doing it, and as a marketer, like, you can't just be, like, sitting in your basement, scrolling, cutting stuff. It's like, marketing in so many ways is about being connected with the ethos, being connected with the culture, being connected with like the narrative, like what's going on. And you can't always just get the narrative from your echo chamber of a feed that's going to just feed you what you want. Like,
Totally true. Yeah.
it's
And
funny. Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I used to be, I studied music professionally, like jazz and, contemporary songwriting, and was in a really, prestigious music school. And the songwriting teachers would always, you go and you write these songs, you get them critiqued, and the teacher, everyone gives feedback. And like every week he would, because you're in with these kids that spend 8 to 10 hours a day in a practice room, in a box, just like working on their chops, like getting better, like all this stuff. But what was so interesting in the songwriting classes, the teachers were always telling students, like, stop practicing, stop just trying to write songs, like go out and live, like, and encouraging students to like actually get away from being just behind their instrument the whole time, because it's like the best songs are created by like living life, because that's how you're going to actually connect with people, because that's where the people are. You have to go, connect with them, be where they're at if you're going to glean the inspiration to create music that's going to have an influence on them. And so it's the same with marketing. It's like you have to be in the conversation and not just watching the conversation. I think life in many ways is divided by writers and readers, creators and consumers. It's like you're kind of either on one side of it or the other. And we can, you can bounce back and forth, and there's value to that. But I think as a marketer, it's like you're very much a creator, regardless, even if you're just media buying, you're imposing influence, on the social narrative, and
Yeah,
to
you're
do that
deciding
well,
what
you have to be
people
part of it.
you're deciding what people want to see. And this is another thing, a great saying I love is consumers are actually very smart. Even if your personal bias is that the average person has like this IQ or they don't have the level of intelligence to dissect complex topics, the average consumer is actually very intelligent. They know what they want.
Mhm.
They know what they want to see. And you can't superimpose onto them what you want them to see. They will tell you really quickly. And if we go back to
Yeah.
the metrics, you can look at things like thumb stop ratio, your 3-second view rate, your click through rate. If all those metrics are low, then you've given the consumer something that they don't want and they just blast right by
Mhm.
it. It's so subconscious, but they know what they're going to be interested in, what they want to see.
100%. I think that's something that often gets missed too in performance marketing, specifically like meta ads. Because when we all started on meta ads, and when meta ads were just becoming a thing, it was like you could run terrible creative and its targeting was so good and it was so new and there wasn't competition. It was like you could find customers, and it almost like it created this like kind of, this mindset of like, oh, I just need to have good tactics and get the ad out. And even if the ad's bad or the offer's bad, like somebody out there in the ecosystem is going to buy it, and I'll be rewarded for it. So,
Yeah, because it was
I
the
think
first time
it's,
anybody ever saw it. I think that's probably why.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was all super new. It was like UGC when we were, you know, we worked with Adventure Challenge. We still do, but like early days with Adventure Challenge, Kickstarter to nine figures, in literally like under 2 years.
Yeah.
Massive growth. And one of the key elements of that was, well, one of many key elements, but like one of the inflection points is, this was 2020. An influencer came out with a viral UGC video. It was still kind of earlier in the influencer days. And this video goes bananas, right? Well, we just had the idea. It wasn't like common practice to use influencer content in ads at that point. It was like when people thought about ads, they were like, oh, we're have a creative team and production and doing this thing. And it was like, oh, let's just like grab that UGC video, run it as an ad. And like, of course, that became our best ad. And we scaled the brand on that ad for well over a year. And it was
Wow.
just doing something first, being one of the first people to really dive into that strategy. And because of that, we got a first movers advantage, and, we're able to like achieve massive growth from it. But, and now 5 years later, everybody does that. That's what everyone's trying to do. And it doesn't work. Like
There's literally
it,
case studies about what you did now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's the other thing. It's just like, yeah, positioning yourself in a spot where you can have that first movers advantage. You can get those creative ideas. You can see what's working, and try to apply it to another medium.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's the decision-making criteria that led you to choosing the first UGC video to run in an ad is the same decision-making criteria that helps you succeed in an ad account. Because you're not just flicking buttons and trying to optimize everything perfectly in the exact same way in every single account. You're looking at it objectively and saying, okay, what's the viewer's perception on different pieces of content? And I think that's approaching it from the other side, from the viewer's point of view, is really how you're gonna find the best winning creative.
For sure. Yeah, like content first. Like,
Yeah,
I hate the phrase, but like content is king.
it's
But
true. It's
creative
true.
is king, but it doesn't change. It'll be interesting like some with AI, thinking about like, I don't know, I've been, the dead internet theory and like kind of going down that road for a bit of like what's incentivizing people to create when AI is generating, maybe the majority of content that we see online now, anyways. Like, where's the incentive for true original ideas and information? Which is probably a full nother topic in itself, but
Yeah, we could definitely
how's
go
that
through
going to affect social media?
we can go down the dead internet theory rabbit hole. We'll probably save that one for another time, but I want to go back to the hiring media buyer part because
Yeah.
one thing I've noticed is really good media buyers get poached. This happened to me a
Yeah.
few years ago. We had a great media buyer. Her name is Emma. Shout out Emma. And she got poached by another big agency. And she worked one on one with a massive wellness brand, $1 billion wellness brand in the States. And she was their head media buyer and got poached
Nice.
by the wellness brand and then moved there. So I wonder sometimes if the best media buyers just get plucked up the totem pole until they make it to
Hmm.
this top tier spot. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because it's like, and this is where having a system to train and develop media buyers, at least for us, is like one of our core values in a lot of ways. Because it's like they're either one getting poached or they're doing their own thing. They're running a few clients, running their own shops, getting paid way more than you could ever pay them in an agency, you know, or they're working for a major brand already, that is compensating them well. So it's very hard to hire somebody that has that seasoned, you know, nine-figure plus expertise of like media management skills. It's doable, but it's a much smaller pool of people to find. So the best is finding somebody when they're on that growth trajectory and being able to interject where they're maybe not at that level of fully managing, a nine-figure budget, but they have all of the capabilities and skill set and curiosity to be able to make it there. And then being able to, run with them along that journey and then, ultimately promote them into that space or, grow them in our company to a place where they have more and more management. I think that's the key with any employee though, right? It's like sometimes it's often better to find somebody that has the highest growth rate and is just learning and hungry and eager and has that skill set, and then partnering them with somebody that is more senior that is able to kind of infuse their knowledge base and their experience into that person. And then as an organization you get to really mold them and craft them into somebody that's it's kind of the ultimate fit for your company, rather than you know poaching somebody that's already at a higher tier that maybe comes in with their own perspective and ideas. And I think that's the case with any you know any position, or most positions, but with media buyers, I think, it's yeah, I think it's harder to find
I
than
think part of
most
the reason
jobs.
is because you need both sides. You need the analytical side and you need the creative side. So if for you, if you had to choose one skill set, either someone that's great at social media and understanding social trends and making organic content versus someone that's super analytical and can make decisions on the data, if you had to pick one, what side would you lean towards?
Yeah, I think my bias is towards the data just because I'm very data driven. I'm the data side. So I would find somebody that is crushing it like with Excel, like go like literally lives in their spreadsheets, doesn't, yeah, it doesn't necessarily, I don't know what I'm saying. Data driven all the way, just because I just feel like there's a lot more people out there too that like if they're excited by that, then that's a really good sign to me. Because I think there's
Right.
so many more people that, oh, I want to work on brand or I want to work on creative and I want to do this. And it's just like, I don't want to say anybody can do that, but it's more of, I think it's personally, I think it's easier to find people.
It's more common for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And what's cool is you can pull a lot of data out of the creative anyways. So you can get all these leading indicators if creative is working well by just simply looking at the numbers
Hmm.
that set up that you customize in your dashboard.
For sure. This is funny. We work with a brand that used to run, this is kind of before a lot of the consolidation stuff, but they used to run their ad accounts plural, and their media buyers plural as a sales team. meaning like they had maybe 7 or 8 media buyers on these accounts, and they all had target spend for the month and then target ROAS. And it was all measured through their own attribution last click model. And it was when we started, it was very clean, so every day they would post the numbers. And they created this framework where it was like, here's all of our products, here's the acronyms for those products, here's the landers that those products can go to, here's the creative that associates with that acronym, here's the copy. But they also gave the media buyers freedom to write their own copy or even create their own ads. And they were just very clear. They're like, all right, here's your targets. Here's, which fold into the bigger targets. And like, for instance, when I came on, it was like, hey, spend 100K a month at this ROAS. You do that, you're great. And then it scaled up, and it was just so much clarity. But it was really interesting to see, because even the way that the team was led and everything was very much like a sales team, which makes sense. As Meta has evolved, and it's like, all right, well, we can't have 10 different media buyers running, multiple ad sets for the same ad, or for the same offer with the same creative. And, as Meta sort of evolved, they had to kind of shift that.
Mm.
But I thought that was a really interesting model, because it gave media buyers so much freedom, but like it gave them allowed them to have disciplined creativity. Meaning, like, I could go create an ad, but oh, by the way, it needs to be in compliance with this 49-page compliance brand document, or
Mhm.
I could go run traffic, but it needs to be, you know, within this target at this spend. And as long as that's good, unlimited budget, like, so it was disciplined creativity. It was a culture of being able to like create and innovate, yet within very defined framework, which I think is the healthiest ecosystem for any organization to develop, or any person to develop in. It's like, yeah, the
Yeah, it's
discipline,
creativity
creativity.
within certain guardrails because as the business owner, you have to
Yeah,
protect your interest in your spend, and you can't spend 100K on traffic on some sample ads that have no proven effectiveness.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes.
exactly.
I think it
Yeah.
probably at the time it was probably like 10 different people flying 10 different planes. But as
Yeah.
the algorithm changes, now it's probably going to feel if you did that now, it would probably be more like 10 different people trying to fly the same plane. I don't know if it
hmm
would pan out the same, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, not at all. I think one of the things is with that brand specifically, kind of measuring over time, that adjustment, and like by not making that adjustment earlier, its impact on the ad account, and taking a good 6 months to a year to really learn, like, oh wait, we actually do need to listen to Meta on this. We need to consolidate, we need to change our strategy. So we saw the impacts of not doing that early stages with that, and then by shifting to consolidation and healthy account composition, like, saw the immediate benefits of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That's really interesting. I think, long and short of it is finding good media buyers is tough because you're
hmm
basically hiring for two skill sets. You got the creative side, the analytical side, and just finding that merge is
Yeah,
diamond in a rough. But
it
I
really
mean, it
is.
seems like you have a great team now. When we first met, I think it was maybe one other person, but now your team is much bigger. You've got a bunch of great senior media buyers on your team.
We're really, really fortunate. We've been able to find like some great talent, some from, even previous employees of brands that we work for, that, we know without a shadow of a doubt have that experience. We can trust them with these budgets. They know, you know, they know what they're doing, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that, and we're really grateful to have been
That's
able to.
interesting because it normally goes the other way. It's normally brands that will take the media buyer from the agency, but it seems like some great brands have worked with you, and then some people will decide that no, they would rather just work for you as the agency.
Yeah, and I think, there's definitely times that happens between that, or there's reasons why the brand maybe can't hire them back or bring them on. RTO, return to office policy, was a huge, huge thing for a lot of, really talented employees. Like, some weren't willing to relocate, or across country, or, there's a number of factors that, you know, allow for our model to work for certain employees versus other
Totally.
companies.
Yep. Yep. Makes total sense. Nice. That was really interesting. Appreciate all the time as always. And next week, I think dive deeper on some of the dead internet theory and a bunch of things going on there.
Sounds good. Thanks for the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.